Yeah, just following up on a couple of things that John had, and you mentioned that you're looking forward to getting back to writing for your big band.
Yeah.
But can we expect more classical?
Probably. I mean, I don't, you know, nothing that I've ever done has been some kind of long range goal. This happened because Dawn came to me and kind of forced me off of a cliff that I would have never had the courage to jump off myself. So, at some point somebody will probably propose something and I'll avoid them for 3 months and then finally get the courage to call them back, and then maybe I'll say yes and that'll be something new. But I don't know what that'll be. Who knows? It's so funny because if you look back on your life, everything makes such logical sense, all the steps. But I can't figure out the next logical step. It'll come. I'm very open to just kind of seeing what comes and saying, "Hey, that sounds like fun," and I'm good at saying no too.
Mm-hmm.
If
that's an important word, isn't it?
It is. It's hard sometimes. If somebody asks you to do something and it would be fun to do, but you have to stay your course. The time it takes so much time to write, and also I'm running the band. I'm running my website. I also just want to have a life. I want to go birding. I want to go kayaking. I want to do things that also feed my music, but also just feed my physical and mental and spiritual self. I'm not one of those. I was one of those morning, noon, night musicians. And I want to have a rounded life.
Yeah. Well, I hope that opportunity comes and that you're ready to say yes eventually to writing something else classical. I know we, in these days, we're trying more and more to blur the lines between the various genres.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's perhaps unfair to say, well, when are you going to write in this category or that?
No, but I understand it. It's I understand it because I say it too. It's funny with this album. I hired a publicist, and it's really interesting because people are doing. I know the kind of publicity I normally get and the number of reviews I normally get, and it's a lot. And this go around, people are more willing to write features about the music, but very, very few people are reviewing it. And when they do, it feels kind of like they don't know what to say, So I think everybody's avoiding it because I think the classical people, they sort of feel like it's maybe, I'm guessing, that it's sort of out of their wheelhouse in a way. And maybe the jazz people too, so everybody's sort of cautious and, nobody really wants to say they like it, and nobody wants to say they don't like it really, and they're kind of, that's my guess. I don't know.
You would think we would be beyond that by now.
Yeah, kind of. I think it's going to change more and more. I mean, there's a few people out there, actually more jazz people are reviewing it than classical people. I was shocked even that some of the jazz magazines are, one is putting me on the cover, for this record,
Wow.
and this is, to me, much further away from jazz than it is classical. If classical's here and jazz is here, and I'm normally here anyway, I'm kind of inching towards the classical. This makes a very big jump in that direction, but they still kind of, I have to say, since the beginning of my career, I've felt the jazz community is very, very open-minded. They embrace everything from Cecil Taylor to, very traditional, a group doing Jelly Roll Morton or something like that. There's kind of room for everybody, and even with new composers, people do things so all over it, and there's very little criticism for not being something other than what they are.
Mm-hmm.
They're taken kind of on their own merit or their own terms or something, and And that's nice. It's something I've loved about the jazz world and jazz journalists.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny because I have been thinking that we are getting more and more to an age where musicians, classically trained musicians, I think, seem to not be confined quite so much by the walls that we were once confined by.
Definitely.
But I find it interesting, your description of trying to get, your frustration of trying to get classically trained musicians to get away from a metronomic feel and to kind of allow the rhythm to breathe in your music.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things too that if I had more time with a group, I see with my own band, I have the benefit of time, years of time to find phrasing. And, when I go in with an orchestra like this, I don't have that time. So, I'm sure if I had the time, and they did do it, they would respond, but it's not so natural, and I can feel it's, I don't know, it's, rhythmically, the worlds are different. Jazz, I would say if there's something unusual, the record is here, but if there's something that is unusual about this music for the classical world, it's that a lot of the music has a certain kind of groove, like Don't Kill Yourself. It's got a bulleria flamenco rhythm, but it grooves. That means that you got to hit those rhythms, and with all the syncopations, it's just got a groove, and not in this way, but in a groove kind of way. And even quadrilla has that, and classical music grooves too. I don't know what I'm saying. There's just some differences. They're hard to define.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if we will ever, or if we really should seek a world where musicians can sit down and play anything that's put in front of them.
Yeah, I don't even think that would be good, necessarily, because then when they really sit down to hone in on what they really do, specifically, their thing, will it have lost something? Maybe it would. Yeah, I don't think there's any shoulds or whatever, but I do think that there's going to be more musicians that are passing between and are going to be trained at that. And so for things like this, it makes it. And I think there'll be more composers doing these kinds of things too.
Yeah. I was fascinated by a video that I saw on your site or related to your site where you were talking about going in with your band, and these are the people that you're most familiar with, but putting a newly made score in front of them for the very first time, and the apprehension that you had because you had a very clear idea of what it was going to sound like, and they're reading it for the very first time, and you're introducing all kinds of questions as to, well, have I forgotten how to write?
Yeah.
Music?
It happens every time I hear a new piece. And then they always say to me, Maria, we just need to learn it. Remember, it's been like this every single time. And it's true because, if you're sitting down and if you're playing, you've got your horn or your violin or whatever you have, if you don't have the conception of the sound in your head, then you're playing the note, you're playing it with either mezzo, forte, whatever it says in the music, with an accent, no accent, but you're playing it, and then you're discovering how it fits in, and it's too late. It's too late to do it any different way. If you've once played the music enough and kind of started to realize, oh, we're all together on this, and then this soloist is in front, and we're kind of this sumptuous thing underneath it or whatever. It needs that kind of warmth through the note, and I hear how I have a little bit of a dissonant note that's giving really a special tension with the melody on top, so I'm just going to lean in on that a little bit. Then the musician is ahead of the music. They know just what they're doing because they have this vision, collective vision of what this is. They're all putting their heart into it and putting all their skill into it. And that's when the body, kind of the spiritual body of the music appears. And then the music is just a conduit for making this experience happen. And that's when, that's when a piece becomes what I want it to be. Because, I don't want to write beautiful sounding music. I want to create something that goes beyond music, that it sort of transcends the music and gives an experience that I'm feeling. I mean, that's my wish. When that happens, or somebody tells me that's what they got, that's when I really feel happy.